Well, hello, welcome to ILoveGay today. And we are back in the world of advertising, marketing, branding, and so forth. And we are here with Graham and Kate from Do the WeRQ. How are you guys?
Hi. Good.
Hello, Austin.
Yeah, and so for those that don't know, it's a new organization they've launched that's all about kind of touching in the worlds of marketing, advertising in the LGBT community. And but before we get into that, just tell us a little bit about yourselves. Kate, I guess you might, if you wanted to start and tell us about what you guys do. And
Ladies first. Okay. Yeah, so Graham and I are co-chairs of Do the WeRQ. I actually have to give kudos to Graham because it's originally his idea. I was lucky enough to get pulled in at the upfront. And when I met him, he got me all riled up about what's happening in the LGBT world in terms of marketing and spend and his larger mission. And during that time, I was actually pretty heavy in the multicultural space. So my experience actually is in the beginning of my career, I did the residency at big agencies where I hopped around different departments. And I thought that looking back on it, that made me incredibly lucky that I did that. At the time, it felt like I was indecisive. But what it ended up building is an understanding of all departments at the big level of advertising, where you're actually getting substantial training. So I went from creative to production to strategy to account. And that allowed me to kind of take those pieces and understand how the world works internally in the advertising structure. Yeah. And then eventually I jumped ship from the big agencies and moved on to boutique creative agencies. And then from there, I thought I'd give it a try at influencer, moved over to a company called RQ. And then since then, I have been lucky enough to start my own agency during a pandemic. So I left RQ in February of, mid-February, actually Valentine's Day. And then by the 18th, I opened up Lupine Creative, which is my new shop. And we do culture marketing. And we have been actually very lucky to be supported by great pieces of work and doing a lot of LGBT work in that space, actually, for big brands that are trying to celebrate that, our community, honestly, beyond the rainbow washing of June. So I'm tremendously lucky and very lucky to be a part of Do the WeRQ and working on LGBT work because it's close to my heart.
you jumped in with both feet.
Yeah. Oh, I dove in head first. I'm a busybody, so it's like if I stop moving, I don't know what happens. So thank the powers above for Do the WeRQ, which has been quite a bit of work and pun intended. And Lupine it's been a wild ride and inside my home.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And
Diving in with both feet and head first is a jackknife, right?
Yeah, and that's a pretty accurate description of myself. I'm a jackknife of all trades.
I just had to honor like the Olympic level dive that just sort of unfolded. So it's really funny to be a co-chair for this because I'm not a diversity and inclusion professional day to day, nor do I like lead an agency. But my career is 2 decades of telling the story of agencies. So originally I wanted to be like an account exec, and I studied a lot of psychology and sociology in college, and that's where like my heart was, and I kind of like for a while wanted to be like a strategist. And what I found was a career where I became corporate communications for agencies, which for those people who are not in the day-to-day, and even for those who are in the day-to-day of the agency world, still don't quite understand what I do. But then when you tell them, oh, someone has to promote the brand of the agency, they go, oh, okay, yeah, I guess if those agencies are like, 1,000, 2,000 person companies and they're global, someone would need to take care of their brand. So what that did is put me in the position to understand over the years what agencies were doing relative to what they were saying. Right? And I was generally telling the story of, I've worked at Starcom Media Vest Group, I've worked at Momentum, I've worked at Gray, and you get a lot of experience just sort of seeing how the action relates to the rhetoric and helping make sure that you can live up to the integrity of what you're talking about. And, one of the conversations then that dominates is diversity, and then you become very active in that, and then you can sort of like, it was from then that like I moved to Austin in September, and I got to a place where just politically And in terms of activism, I found myself talking a lot and not doing a lot. So, or not doing enough. So do the work and connecting with the community that we've connected with is all part of an effort to just make sure that we all are able to do things. I find that, intention is not the problem with anyone. Everyone has the greatest of intentions. It's just, do they feel mobilized? Do they feel connected as a community? And when I sort of looked at the agency landscape, and then when, started engaging with Kate and we started like developing what our plan was and our community would be, it became clear to us that, there are places to connect at larger scale, and there are cultural challenges that affect the final product. And if we could sort of start a discussion about what the entirety of that process was, that gives us the impetus to include more people and to celebrate our diversity and then advance our shared cause.
Yeah.
And then sorry, I was
No.
just to piggyback on everything Graham just said. I think one of the big parts that Graham and I talked about in the very beginning is the idea of working in such a creative field. And that's what marketing and advertising is, right? We are creators and makers, and we make for other people's products and services, but we are the keepers of that content, and we are the voice of that content. Yeah. And in a room, and anybody that works in marketing can relate to this, in a room, in a brainstorm, when trying to crack a brief, you want to put all of your focus into that. And the idea that a subset of people are constantly code switching and covering and breaking off pieces of their focus from the brief was too much to bear. It decreases and diminishes the work and the output. And I think, Graham, I'm going to quote you on this. I don't think I've ever met a client that said, I would like the work to be less creative. And so, that is a huge part of looking at our internal struggle and our outside struggle. What is our output at the end of the day, and how are we increasing representation? But also, let's focus on the employee constructs. Let's make sure people feel safe, that they're not shifting focus, that you are getting 100% of their queer brain, right? Because they're going to have great ideas and different perspectives. And they're not worried about whether or not they're going to be identified as who they are, or if there's repercussions of being who they are in their truest form. So that was another really big point that resonated quite a bit with me when we first started talking, and why personally I stayed on and fell in love with Graham and didn't do the work. And so, yeah.
I love it.
And by the way, just in regards to our marriage, note that we own Do the Work together as a legal entity, but because of COVID and because we're, improvising during crazy circumstances, we have yet to meet in person.
Yes.
Wow.
And we talk every day. It's insane. This is modern day romance. Let me just tell you, platonic, beautiful.
You mean I might meet Kate in LA before you've met her in person? That's insane.
That's insane. Yeah. And actually it was pre-pandemic. It just, during the process of us starting to work together, I was in LA, he's in Austin, and parts of, I believe you were in New York, Graham, right? In the beginning. And he was moving, I was starting a company, and the goal was, this is classic, the goal was always that I would spend time and we would sit down and do the in-person thing after this ship had left, the station, to meet during South by Southwest in Austin, and we all know how that ended, right?
Exactly.
So, thank you, Zoom, the connective tissue that keeps us together.
I agree. Well, and I think it's safe to say, what connects us and even brings the three of us here together is that on our end over the years, we've worked with partners to produce a conference in New York about how to reach the LGBT marketplace, and always talking about print and social media and online and events. Just kind of, I say that because it was always very partner oriented, bringing different speakers and different folks in front of an audience that there was always brands and small business, trying to learn about how to make this work. But that grew, and it grew into a thing called LGBT Week, and it became an entire week's worth of programming. And then meeting you guys, we were so much in sync, because that's everything we've ever done. It's just, we definitely believe you definitely cannot do all things. It's not like we could be Walmart and be all things to all people. And so, we've enjoyed the work in New York. We've actually kind of phased some of that out because things have changed over the years. And also some of the story has kind of become redundant. But you guys kind of bring a whole new fresh voice and fresh face to still bringing on that concept, it seems, with Do the Work, as far as just kind of elevating the conversations that brands and marketers and advertisers have when it comes to the LGBT marketplace.
Yeah.
Partnership, is definitely the name of the game, and I think it becomes all the more important when you look at the eclectic nature of just the perspectives that come with an LGBTQIA+, right? So one of the funny things about getting this started in terms of partnerships was because of the business that we're in, everyone wants to see the deck. They want to see the deck for the 5-year plan. If we're a brand, we want to know how we can sponsor right now. And one of the reasons we intentionally, and we've had to tell people this like repeatedly, like, and we have the deck now, but we didn't for what would be considered probably a long time for this industry, because we wanted to make sure that we were encompassing more perspectives before we sort of got things out. So it doesn't mean that we have any lack of vision, and it doesn't mean that we're not like creating very decisive action, but it's to say that like, what would we tell a multi-million-dollar brand before they started the campaign? We would tell them to listen, right? So a lot of what we have coming next that we're not quite ready to announce yet is going to be very like data intensive, and it's going to be very much about like finding out the big picture of sort of what people think and what their perspectives are. But our immediate launch period has been defined by digital programming that is about conversations. So that we can spotlight different perspectives, so we can start to pull from individual conversations, what people think about what we need to do to go forward, so we can integrate that with our vision.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure during when we promote this that we have links to all that as well. But yeah, go ahead, Kate.
Thank you.
I was just going to piggyback, I think one of the things when we started out and we looked at, we modeled just like any other business, right?
Yeah.
So we look at who's doing it well. We give props to Kat Gordon, and we give props to Tiffany R. Warren of showing how they can, take a culture, a minority culture, and bring it to the forefront and actually enact change by visibility, and then actual real work streams placed internally that then they're, constantly checking in. And looking, we use the term KPI just like we would in a campaign. But for us to identify what those are, as Graham said, we just have to listen and learn. And I think one of the big things, and it's not to be discounted, is it wasn't until June 15th that we had a precedent set by the Supreme Court that said you cannot be fired or discriminated against in your workplace. And that's a precedent. That does not mean it is law. It just means we have now created a benchmark that everybody that gets discriminated by can say, hey, this happened here. We need to go back to it. We need to revisit. This is unlawful. Yeah. And that was 5 weeks ago. So this is, considering that, considering like where we are, and people forget this. And I will tell you, one of the craziest things about this journey for me personally is the conversations that I have always start with the same thing. And Graham, I know you can relate to this completely. Almost every person says, how do we not already have something like that? And we go, yeah, it's crazy that it didn't exist before. It's crazy that we are essentially trailblazers for LGBT and it's 2020. And then you think it's crazy for me where we are politically. It's crazy for me where we are from a Supreme Court ruling that is breaking news while we're having other civil rights like protests and riots that need to be happening. And we talk about where we are in our country and where we are with our culture, and then we talk about the microism that is advertising culture. And of course we don't have that information. So one of our tenets now is to unearth it. And we are doing that in so many different ways, and it is by partnership. And to bring it back to your original question, we need allies, we need partnership allies, we need company allies, we need other queer communities and organizations that are doing it right to partner with us so we can extract the right information and set the good and actionable benchmarks. And that is what we're doing in 2020. Like we are exhausting those relationships and figuring out who can get on board. So wherever this goes, call to action. You have something, you have information, let's connect and figure it out. Because for us to advance forward, we need to start from somewhere. Mm-hmm. And somewhere is what we're trying to identify now.
Yeah. No, this is great, and I think it's a time of a lot of change, and it's there's a lot of things that have been disrupted right now, and so coming out with a new message from something that's trying to bring people together, I think it's very timely at this point. So I'm excited and very optimistic to see where all this goes, and look forward to being a part of it with you guys.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you
Yeah.
for the.
Oh.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, like I said, we're going to make sure that everything's linked up and easy to find. And mostly I look forward to being able to connect with you all in the real world. With Kate, it'll be in a few weeks. And then
Yeah.
with Graham, hopefully this year.
It will happen.
It will.
We're gonna will it.
Well, thanks so much for being here, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Happy
take care.
Tuesday or whatever day.